For the newly indoctrinated, Jim Butcher's The Dresden Files follows the story of a professional wizard in Chicago. We've started our podcast as a way to help break down the series' most important moments, characters, and lore. This is McAnally's Dresden Files Pubcast by Free Flow Rambling. Conjure by it at your own risk.
Welcome to the McAnally's Pubcast, brought to you by Free Flow Rambling. This is episode 5.4, Cops, Critters, and Cons. My name is Tansenn, and I am joined by Maggie.
Hello.
And Jess.
Hi.
Are you an alien automaton? Kelpies camping in your creek? Bigfoots barged into your bunker? Elves on your shelves? Ghouls in your garden? Poltergeists in your pantry? We believe you. Midwestern Arcane offers competitive rates for exclusive original photos or documented experiences. Call today. Submissions become exclusive property of the Midwestern Arcane. Artistic license may be taken.
Chapter 8. Dresden stops off at the police department to drop off his report to Murphy. He is intercepted by Agent Denton while Internal Affairs is interviewing Murphy. Agent Denton offers to drop off his report for him. On Dresden's way out, Agent Harris offers a tip and asks him to look into the Street Wolves biker gang. Okay, Chapter 8.
Yabble. Oh, yeah. He spent all night. He's werewolf, chatted with Bob, and now he has a report to give Murphy.
So this is the first time we get a bit of a summary of what headquarters looks like. And it's so biased right off the bat. Harry's like, SI is like the faithful bulldog guarding all of the crazy, stupid children who have no idea what they're doing, and he just sits faithfully all day doing his job and being, and I'm like, damn, Dresden, like, it's still a government body, like, but, like, he's like, it's like right off the bat, Harry's like, literally everyone here is super incompetent and stupid, and SI is the only thing holding it all together, and nobody even knows, and I'm like, damn, bro, you got some issues with them right off the bat, like,
Well, we've already discovered Harry's like a 60-year-old in a 20-year-old's body, so yeah, all these like new fancy, newfangled steel and chrome, glass and chrome skyscrapers are just like, he's like, no, SIs and like the old leftover
back in my day, we used to just hunt witches, and now there's all these DNA and fingerprinting, and like...
Yeah, pretty much. And oh, look, Scanlan even gets a mention. It's a big old rundown building, a huge cube that has managed to hold up solidly in spite of its years.
Wow.
You just gotta get it everywhere, don't you, Shorthalt?
I can't believe you made that reference.
I was sitting there staring at me. I was literally, the thing that popped out was a huge cube.
Got a lot of Critical Role on the brain these days.
It's okay.
Which I get, but...
I've discovered we've got a few Critical Role fans as well, so it's alright, they'll get it.
I've heard of Critical Role. This is cool.
One of the characters refers to parts of his anatomy as the cube.
Oh, and he refers to it extensively.
And refers to it as being.
Okay.
So just a huge cube that has managed to hold up solidly in spite of its years just works because Scanlan's also like, I don't know, a few hundred, 500. Scanlan's...
That is what he'd like you to believe.
That is what he'd like you to believe. Okay. So it's
One
just...
day, you'll learn his age.
Oh, there you go. Okay, well, yes, as far as I am so far, is that just part of his belief?
You'll get there.
And the fact that he's also the leader.
He is. He is.
Okay.
Wait until the finale. He is.
I'm gonna give up on this right now. Yeah, so
Dresden runs into Susan on the way.
Yeah, so he finds out he's a little bit persona non grata. So before he was sort of one of a nut, but a useful nut. You know, like his tips and leads kind of seem to lead somewhere. Now they're giving him like the cool
You're a
cop
suspect.
look. Yeah, just the cool instead of the hey buddy, how's it going? They're just keeping a bit more distance. So that kind of annoys him. It hurts his feelings a little bit. Which I kind of don't blame him. If you were sort of a little bit part of a group and now
I'm
you
not
weren't
cool anymore.
Well, right. None of us like to be left off, especially when you've sort of had a little bit of inclusion and now you're kind of back on the edges. But yeah, and then he bumps into... So, which is nice because we haven't... I think this is basically the first mention, other than Bob razzing him, but we don't really know what's up with their... Find out.
Yeah, they're a bit on the ambiguous side.
Yeah, which is working for them. That's
Yeah.
somewhat by choice.
They find it's better not to actually define their relationship because that would mean probably the end of their relationship.
Yeah. because they're both busy. Harry's got a lot of his... So, yeah. But we know that they are still basically together as a couple. They still have their dates. They hook up. They are not an official hardcore, but they...
Well, this is the scene where I realized that, like, me and Susan are the same age.
Yeah, how
I'm both,
exciting.
like, 24-ish right now.
How is that?
Yeah, because this whole series has always happened, like,
to be 24 again.
so much older than me. And now I'm like, wait a second.
Yeah,
I
when you
grew
started
into
reading it a decade ago, they were all
Yeah.
10 years older than you, and now, yeah, exactly. And now you start to realize and appreciate
them.
Oh, the way we used to be.
And now you start to realize how more of their stupid mistakes, and at the same time,
Yes and no.
hate them for all the places they're ahead of, and commiserate with them for all the places where you're like, oh, I get now why that would.
Like the average 24-year-old, sometimes they're 14 and sometimes they're 40.
And if
Which is basically
they
what
had
these
you as
people
a friend, Jess, they would never have made any of these mistakes because you would have made fun of them mercilessly.
Yes, exactly.
Before any of those mistakes would have actually happened.
Right?
I feel like I should be a life coach because I will tell you right away that you're a fucking idiot. Because these guys,
Nay.
so often, they're fucking
Don't
idiots.
do it.
I mean, when we get to chapter 9, Harry, you're a fucking idiot.
Jessica
Like,
is all about the tough love. Heavy on the tough, light on the love. She'll get you there eventually.
did you or did you not live?
So Susan admits that she was looking into Murphy because of the stint with the internal affairs.
Yeah, she's
because
heard about
that she has got a lot of skin invested in that game there. That if
Susan does, or Murphy?
Susan does,
yeah.
yeah, because if this is their most successful,
Lieutenant of SI.
yeah,
Well,
because if she goes down, that means there's no voice for truth, as what you had said.
Susan firmly believes that Murphy is making a legitimate difference
yeah.
in her position as SI, and Susan believes that if Murphy is out, she'll be able to prove that Murphy was making a difference. Not to necessarily say that Susan wants Murphy to leave, but she thinks that should Murphy leave, Susan has a real case to make at that point.
Yeah. Yeah, because Harry's argument is, well, people don't want to believe. They want to, what is it here? People don't want to believe in magic anymore, or things that go bump in the dark. For the most part, they're happier not knowing. And when not knowing gets someone killed, and that's where people like me and Murphy come in. And she's like, kind of her point there, I think, right, is exactly that she's... And this really is a pretty good symbiotic relationship, because Harry's in on the stuff and has proved to be an exceptional good source of information and preventative measures or whatever for Murphy. Murphy's doing a good job keeping the supernatural more balanced by saying it was a guy in a mask, but don't worry, really, we went and killed him. And Susan's there just to pick up, like, great for her.
Presenting it to the masses.
Presenting it to the masses, exactly, of being able to say, like, okay, so the New York Times told you it was a guy in a mask. The Arcane's here to tell you it really was a werewolf.
The three of them should have been the polyamorous couple.
Right? Don't worry, I'm sure there's a lot of that out there.
You're right. I haven't Googled enough.
Yeah.
There's a line here too that you just mentioned where Harry's like, well, me and Murph are the last line of defense. And it's like, I love Harry and Susan. I really do. But there's that moment right there. I'm like, yeah. Like, even from the beginning, Harry's a bit of a dick and he leaves people out and he doesn't tell them everything. But Harry ultimately, like, he is there for the teamwork. Like, he wants to be on a team. Even like you said before,
Yes.
like with the police and stuff like
Yeah.
that. Like, Harry wants friends. He wants
he's
allies. He
struggling
wants to be a
figure
team.
where he fits in and how to manage
And he is
that.
like, yeah, no, me and Murph
He
will get it.
struggles
Like,
with a bit of arrogance because he thinks that he knows everything at this point.
Yeah. And he tries. He says that. He does. He says, yeah, he's a wizard, and he's,
And he's
like,
trying to protect
do.
everybody.
Yeah. Yeah, and every once in a while, he does remember that and point it out to us / himself.
Six of one, half a dozen of another, He's always like, I'm super arrogant, but it's true, and I know what I'm doing.
Yeah, a little bit, right? So,
Yeah.
So finds us. So then Susan's trying to bug him a bit about, well, what are you working on? What are you here? Yeah, she's basically just there
I'll
for
show
the
you yours
internal-
if you show me mine.
Well, they already have
I'll show
at
you
this
mine if you
point.
show me yours.
I didn't know you were a lawyer as well as a judge. But yeah, exactly. And he's like, no. She's like, oh, but I did so good. Like that scoop last summer, like between Date with a Demon and then busting Victor's cells. And he's like, Yeah, and they busted my chops for that. Like, I had to sign like 10 million non-disclosures.
Yeah.
I can't
He is
tell you
not allowed to
shit.
say anything at this
And
point.
she's like, come on.
Just a little street I could stand on and potentially witness something, Harry.
Yeah, and this is where we get another glimpse into maybe how Harry's shit works, because he's like, most of this stuff can't be photographed. Like, it's all going to mess up your camera and stuff, right? And I was like, oh, like the same that happens to you messing all up the stuff is again. So apparently some of that supernatural magic, which in some ways we see a little bit different, because with the fairies and things a little bit different. Toot Toot has his own magic, but there's maybe potentially a certain overlap or something there that works with.
Well, he tried to use that excuse of that trying to take photography wouldn't work around him, so she was like, "Oh, a long telephoto lens." But then he backtracks and goes off that she basically trying to keep him safe or keep her safe, because he's got that sort of I'm going to keep everybody safeness.
Yes, yeah, it is a little bit. Yeah, she's like, "What if I shot from a long way off?" And he's like, "No, I'm not going to tell any. Yeah, I'm not going to." I shook my head. No, Susan, I'm not going to tell you anything. It's for your own good as much as mine. So yeah, he's partly covering his ass, saying, "I can't give you information. I can't tip you off on what." And yeah, even away from a telephoto, it's still potentially dangerous.
Well, and
for
ultimately,
you.
he has a lot of that sort of protective instinct that gets in the way of his relationships.
Absolutely, and he says that all the time. He's like in distress. He's like, a lot of this is how I was raised and taught to be, is to protect, And like I said this, I think a lot in the first book too. Like he does have a weak spot for the damsel in distress. He does want to come to their aid. He does want to protect them, but at the same time, for the most part, I think Dresden does a really good job of not diminishing the women. Like, he knows Murphy's a fighter and he knows she's a cop, and he doesn't try to stop her from being a cop. Like, even though she kind of semi-accuses him of that sometimes, but he's battling with his own lines of information. He will tell you, hey, there's a bunch of gangbangers on the corner with guns. Have at her. But when it comes to...
You can't bring a badge to a,
werewolf fight.
Yeah.
And that's where they have more. He it's not so much that she can't fight the werewolves because she's a woman. You can't fight the werewolves because you don't have any supernatural talent or enough knowledge to go in as a human, kind of a thing. So, like, he does battle with that, and he does try, and of course now he is in an intimate relationship with Susan, so he does have, but Susan's also, he says she's smart, she's competent, but she's not a fighter either, like Murphy. Murphy has her Aikido, Murphy has her cop training, Susan doesn't even have any of that, right? She's got her brains. So it is, right?
Knowledge is power.
Knowledge is power, but, this is where Dresden does struggle a lot.
He does. He definitely struggles quite a bit with that.
Yeah, the urge to protect and defend and that sort of thing.
To be fair, also, we've only seen Harry with female friends at this point.
Murphy
Even as
and
we go
Susan.
through the series, like, he has this issue with his male friends, too. Pretty much everyone he meets, Harry's, like, never knows when to give.
Yeah.
And when not to,
And that's a little bit of that indoctrination. Like, he's tried, and I mean, I can draw, probably a slightly similar example with my own upbringing. As I did have a religious upbringing, I am not, so even now there's things my take is always sort of, for the most part, everything, that was religious was for the good, like, don't cheat, don't steal, don't murder people. Okay, those are all kind of the basic rules of civilization. That's how we get along, and it's fine. But when you get down to some of the slightly more trickier gray areas, right, that's where I find I don't necessarily believe or, practice what that religion, but I also have a little bit of a knee-jerk, sometimes you'll say or do something and I'll be like, well, that's not, well, actually, I don't care about that. No, I don't, fine, you want to live together? I don't know, even though I was taught you don't shack up before you get married, you don't have premarital sex. Really, I don't have issues with that, but like in the back of my brain there's sometimes still that sort of knee-jerk, right? And I think that's Harry, right? Wizards know everything. Wizards can protect. Wizards have powers and knowledge your average Joe Blow doesn't. So he's like, I'm going to protect you all, and he's realizing,
and I see that as a weak spot though for him.
Yeah, but
Achilles' heel.
Yeah, but this is the thing,
because he wants to be like the all-knowing wizard, but he's not. He is still in his mid-20s. He is a pup in the terms of his knowledge.
Yeah, absolutely. And this is where I'm saying this is where Harry has this internal battle, is that he was sort of brought up in this cultural, this indoctrination of wizards. It's
almost like child
like,
genius.
no, I don't know. Yeah. You know, like we all reach that certain age where we all know we don't have enough to...
Is ahead of his peers, but he's not, the professor,
Yes.
And I think he's, I mean, again, like, even if you're in class and you're the smartest kid in your class, child genius or not, there's a certain level of, like, maybe I should just shut the fuck up and be with my peers.
Yeah.
And sometimes you want to, like,
He doesn't know that yet, though.
Well, yeah, but there's still a level where he's like, I want to be part of the team and I want to be with you guys, and he doesn't necessarily need to be the leader at this point, but he's like, but on the other flip side of the coin, he's also like, I'm just gonna keep it to myself. Fuck you. And
like getting really excited about something and like wanting to share your opinion, and you talk all over and trample everybody else and interrupt them constantly, but
McAnally's Pubcast.
Not really fair. That's exactly my point. I don't do
what is this, episode like 21, 22?
Only like
17, 19,
no,
20?
No, this is either 20 or 21.
Is it? But yeah, point being is right. It is something I know about myself. I try not to do it to be rude. It's not because I don't care. I just get very right, and I have to pull my right. Exactly, it's that same thing. I'm like, I know you don't interrupt people, but I'm just going to interrupt you for 1 second because I just want to.
Well, speaking of interruptions, right after Susan exits, Harry gets interrupted again by Denton.
He does.
Almost makes it to Murphy's office.
So he tries to sidestep Denton and go into the office, but Denton decides that is going to be a little bit more open and sociable to Dresden at this point, and offers to give the report because Internal Affairs is in the room.
Civil. I don't know if I'd go quite as far as sociable in this, but exactly.
Civil, yeah.
He does try to say, like, hey, I know last night didn't look good. Not trying to be a dick. I know Murphy's an okay cop. But yeah, exactly. Allow me to take a moment here and, just say that was out of line. I don't condone that. Well, yeah, don't rock the boat because they're going to not like you showing. It's not going to do you or her, anybody, any favors, but it'll drop it off for you, yeah.
Well, there's a quick reminder in here, too, because they go back and forth for a moment, and it's not really mean or anything like that, but they do have a bit of like, well, do you actually believe me and trust me and think that I'm a wizard? And it's like, you might just be like a pretty smart charlatan. Like, I still don't know how I feel, but same as Murphy, if you can give up information, then I'm willing to accept information.
Yeah,
and
exactly. Yeah, you're either slightly unstable or a very intelligent charlatan. No offense.
I think that underlines it a little bit more is that, again, like, regardless of Susan's feelings on Harry, she doesn't know that he's a wizard yet. She kind of saw him do some magic with the toad last thing, and she is a bit of a believer.
I think that's more than Murphy has seen.
I would say more than Murphy, too, but I still think that there's a level where, Murphy, Susan, anyone really is still always like, but is he?
Yeah.
And there's still, like, a level where Harry is like, oh, the cops trusted me up until Marcone, or Murphy trusted me up until Internal Affairs, or Susan trusted me up until I got her eaten by a demon toad. I mean, she still does trust him. But point being is that through all of this, everyone's still a little bit like, we're still not sure about Harry.
They're still taking a lot on faith. Yeah, and there has not been a lot of demonstrative...
Yeah, and at this point, like, I mean, again, for us, we know...
Demonstrative. Sorry.
For us, in book 1, we basically know sentence 1. That, okay, this is a wizard, this is what we're dealing with, good to go.
Yeah.
But for everyone else, I mean, we're at book 2 and people are still like, are we dealing with a fraud here? And I think it's important to remember, too, that as much as Harry wants to stand around and be like, nobody ever listens to me, even though I clearly know more than everyone, it's like, but also, like, no one knows that, like, it's one thing to trust someone explicitly, and they aren't telling you everything, but it's one thing to be like, I still don't even know if I trust you, and you're not telling me everything,
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, like I would like to, but you're still, yeah. Well, I mean, he kind of says, I think when he's going into the department store, chapter 2 back there, he's like, oh, I can't just go in and like bust this lady, because at that point he hadn't seen the group, he's like, I can't go in and bust her, I'm just here to gather information. He's like, but I don't need SI to validate my authority or whatever, he's like, I'm still a wizard, I can still, grabs a staff and rod and goes on it. I don't need SI, I can just grab my staff on my own, thank you very much. But yeah, exactly right, and that's kind of the thing here, is that he knows and he's comfortable and he trusts, and in a way, that's good, that's fine, you don't need anyone else to validate you, Harry, but at the same time, you can't, 100% fault other people, because you haven't proven to them. You're fine. Maybe you don't have to prove to them, but if you want them to believe and trust, can you blame them for?
We're right back onto
For
that
having
arrogance, but
holding
also
back a
really
little
wanting
bit.
to be on a team. Like,
Yeah.
He really does want to be on a team, but at the same time, Harry's like, he's just got that disconnect from everyone.
Yeah, it's almost like he really just wants a family.
Well, he does, and he
yes.
says, like he got in this to help. Like he said, I was like, I could have just been a wizard and done my own thing and stayed in the closet like all the
He
other
could be
wizards.
doing,
He's like, I
boob
want
enlargement potions all
I
day
could be
long
doing
if you
boob
wanted
enlargement
to.
potions,
he
under
wants
the
to do
name
the
of
right
science.
thing,
But that's
yeah.
the thing. He's like, I became an investigator and I hung out my shingle and I went public because I want to help. I want people that are being chased by monsters to know, yes, they're real. Yes, there is somewhere you can go to get help from being chased by monsters.
And even in book 1, he was saying, like, he turned down work that he thought that he legitimately wasn't the right fit for. Like, he's given every opportunity. And on top of wanting to be in a family, Harry has this whole, he was ostracized from the beginning from his people. And he took it a step further. He's like, all right, fine, you don't want me on your team, but I'm going to expose all of you. Whether or not they believe me, I'm putting my ad in the yellow pages. So, like, he always takes it that one step further, too. Like,
all right,
you don't like me, I don't like you more. So as much
Your
as
move.
it was a little bit even with other people, it's like, you don't believe I'm a wizard? I'm going to be a wizard even more. And then people are like, hey, well, that's extra fake now. And he's like, no, that's...
Yeah. Well, that's the thing, right? You can go and find everybody's keys, but it's really, really hard to prove you found anybody's keys by magic. Right? Like, a lot of his spells don't have a lot of show to... We think it's neat when he's describing it and we're reading about it, but again, to the naked eye watching him...
Sure, snapping your fingers and looking underneath the couch cushion isn't much.
Yeah, right?
It seems like solving my mystery and not actually by magic.
Yeah, that's the thing, is it's so hard to...
I think also, like, in that perspective, it's just like, it is almost like watching, like, no offense to life coaches out there, but occasionally when you watch a life coach on stage, they say, 4,000 words for something that's really only 10 words needed, Like, they can go on for a 3-hour speech, and really it all boils down to...
McAnally's Pubcast.
Yeah, well, exactly. But the point being is that just because we see Dresden wax poetic for 20 pages, it's like everyone else is like, bro, get to the point. Magic is about this and that and this, and everyone's like, just cast a stupid spell if you're gonna do it. Like,
Yeah.
I like textured colors. Yeah. Let's get to the toad. Okay.
well, even as Harry says, sometimes he extra plays it up too. I leave the lights off and I lower my voice and I shake my hands.
Yeah,
because
he
it's like,
fulfills people's expectations.
right? Because he knows sometimes, like, yeah, I do just snap and it's done, but people don't like that. They need the dramatics, or they
Yeah.
won't believe me.
That's not a real wizard. Okay, let me put on my pointy hat.
You didn't say abracadabra.
So they have their little thing, whatever, and he's like, yeah, I'll take it in for you or whatever. Don't stir more shit up. So he's like, okay. And then he just like hands it over. I'm like, don't, what do you, don't, like, we don't know. I don't remember, what, if any, real opinions I'd formed about Denton, but just on basic principle, I was like, don't hand over your werewolf file to this guy. You don't know him. You met him yesterday and they tried to kill Murphy. Right?
I had the same, like, why would you do that? Like, you don't know he's going to give it to him, even though he offers to, and you can call him.
Especially since he doesn't know.
At the same time, though, it's not like Denton is like, you and Murphy will never speak again, mwahaha. Like, if it doesn't get to Murphy, Harry can just give him the same report.
Well, I know,
later.
and he does say, he's like, give it to me, you can call and let her know, but it wasn't so much potentially that it might not get to Murphy, but it was just like, you're giving someone else your notes, like, you guys already think, like, don't show him your... But then, the one thing that saved it slightly is, then Denton does say, he's like, can I read it? So
Yeah.
I'm like, okay, you did out, because I was just like, oh
Yeah,
no,
you
he's
did
gonna
ask
find, like,
for it.
don't, it's like one of those things, like, in the shows and movies, where he's like, oh yeah, here you go, and you're like, oh, that's just, that's gonna spell trouble.
But I think that's one more thing about Harry. He wants to be on the cops' team. He just got to work.
I was gonna say, that's what saved me a little bit, is the fact that Denton's like, so Harry doesn't, right? It's not like Harry's thinking and doesn't like, oh, I never thought that he might read the file I handed him. I'm like, it does get thrown right out there in the open where Denton's like, do you mind if I look? And then Harry's like, I hope you like science fiction or whatever, fine. But at least then he knows, right? So he's like,
Permission was asked.
right, so he's not like blindsided later by him, like, right, and he's like, oh, okay, this guy might think I'm crazy, but yeah, fine, go ahead, this might just confirm your, you know what I mean, like, that was all. Yeah, it's just that initial of like, don't ever give anything to an outside character we don't know, but then I'm like, okay, we'll front about it. He's like, I want to snoot, yeah, fine,
Vox Machina, never trust the NPC.
right, like, pretty exactly, right, you're like, where's Larkin? Who's Larkin? Why did he, fuck.
So
love you,
Dresden hands off his report to Denton and then confirms with Murphy
Yeah.
that it was received.
Who does? Like, she plays it very cool, but he's like, I did detect that slight hint of relief. She was kind of glad I didn't come barging into her office. You know, she's like, I appreciate you got it to me, but yeah, this probably was the easier way. Thanks, guys. So, yeah. So he's I'm gonna talk to Murphy.
So he starts going to his car, going to the Blue Beetle, when he is intercepted by
Ron Stoppable.
Agent Roger Harris.
That's my, you know how I think I was saying last time I have like a picture of everybody in my head? Roger Harris is basically Ron Stoppable, but like a redhead instead of a blonde. Because Stoppable even had like the freckles and stuff. Kim Possible, okay. Ron Stoppable. He's like a mix between like, I don't know, Ron Howard? So for those of you, but yeah, Agent Harris.
I'm nodding and smiling.
Okay. You know the pimply teenager on Simpsons that's always like the drive-through. Oh, there you go! Like he's always like the delivery boy and the drive-through guy. Yeah. It almost was not quite that high whiny voice, but it's almost like that guy that I sort of picture as like Roger Harris.
Okay.
But a little bit leaning more Ron Stoppable, if you didn't know that reference. He's kind of the...
We imagine a fully human cast, but one cartoon character as Roger.
Pretty much. Unfortunately, pretty much. A human version of him. But basically, So,
So Roger hires Harry to look into the street wolves. Mm-hmm. Which is their suspect.
A gang, up-and-coming gang that has started to cause some issues and like establish them.
I think they were an established gang, weren't they? But point being a bait gang.
I just want to make a point that Harry is really fucking cocky.
Right? This kid. You guys are maybe like 2 years maximum in age difference.
I was gonna say, for him to have to be an FBI agent, kids had to have done
You're
some
18
school.
straight into FBI. Okay. Let's say another 2 years on top of that for schooling and whatnot. He's at 20 to 22 maximum. Like Harry's, we're guessing around 24 maximum. Like, buddy.
Right? Well, and I'm going to quote this here. Why Harry is so fucking cocky.
It's probably the same line I wrote down. Go for it.
Don't worry about it. I told him. You didn't do a bad job with the act, but you got to get up pretty early in the morning, etc.
Yeah, that's exactly the one I jotted down.
Little shit.
Dresden, you fool.
Not to mention, this is like the first time in like an entire year that Harry has woken up before lunch.
Joke's on you, motherfucker.
I know, right? Because he's like, oh, Denton wanted to, and you're just playing it up like Denton wouldn't let you, so he sent you to ask me. And he's like, yeah, not bad, kid.
Yeah.
But I know that especially when you got to get up pretty early, etc. I caught on.
Now, being 24, I will admit,
at 10 o'clock, not until 6 o'clock.
I will admit, being 24 myself, only a few years younger than me, is still a child. But still, Harry was just so over the top with this. I'm like,
grade 12, and I suddenly was like, oh my god, was I this annoying as a 10th grader? Like, please tell me I was.
Yes,
so
it
starts to happen fast, and then, once you, like, graduate high schoolers are, like, the worst. And once you hit 20, like, teenagers are like, oh my god, you were never that, but
once you're all in your early 20s,
when you're like fucking FBI agent to PI, I mean, like, you know what I mean? Like, he's not actually the pimply short order cook from Simpsons.
And
like,
again, like, even if you're like intern FBI to like what, he's had his business license 2 years, we're thinking, Harry?
Something like that.
Like, you're both pretty equal footing right now.
Yeah.
Like, you guys are like pretty much as equal as you could possibly be. Like,
and decent professionalism here too.
Yeah, right.
You know, like, I was still working, odd jobs in retail at that.
And I will say,
like,
Harry got dressed properly this morning,
which was a first.
Well, and exactly, but it's like on any other given day, Harry would have been staring at this guy in a suit and cowboy boots and sweatpants, being like, "What up, kid?"
Duster. Like, it's okay, little boy.
One of us is walking around with a stick.
He just sort of lucked out that day that he looked like a professional.
Literally,
right?
Literally,
yeah. Yeah, and then he's all like, "Oh, I guess I gotta do this." Technically, yeah, you're still.
Well, I
kind
just
of
bargain a little bit. He bargains for information for Denton's case.
Yeah, and he said he's like,
So
oh, I
he's
guess
his
you
own-
can't go down as an official reporter. It's like, you can still hand me an envelope of money, motherfucker.
Yeah, right.
I don't have to write down shit, but you can still pay me.
Right. Like,
This is
take
no
a-
taxes.
Take a pool, like get everybody chip in the kitty, and Agent Ben can add a few more bucks because she just about
Offer
blew
lunch,
blew
like
a hole
Jesus.
in my friend. Yeah.
Harry instantly rolled over for
But
that.
yeah, it's not Denton's case. Harry wants his own file.
Ba-dum-bum.
He wants the file that
I'll take my credit. Point is, Harry is convinced to go look out these checkouts.
So here's the thing. So Harry wants. It's he doesn't want Denton's case file. He wants his own record of shit on him, whatever the cops, FBI, anybody has on him, and which is fine. I mean, Harry's kind of like, well, you could do that yourself. He's like, yeah, I can't be bothered. You guys. But I'm like, I legitimately like don't recall going forward. I don't remember if it has any impact. I don't remember if he ever gets that. So
Keep reading.
yeah, I know. I'm like, I legitimately don't remember this ever coming back again or not. So I just don't know if it just was a small enough thing that I've legitimately forgotten. But I'm like, I don't know if Harry actually ever gets his hands on. So it makes the next chapter even worse. Chapter 9.
Chapter 9. Going off a secret lead from the FBI, Harry finds himself at the Full Moon Garage, apparently territory of the up-and-coming street wolves. Harry quickly finds himself outnumbered and out of depth and does his best to retreat. After a harsh soul gaze, Harry escapes to his office, only to find another sort of wolf. So Chapter 9.
Yeah. So decides to go check out Roger's tale.
Full Moon Garage.
Full Moon Garage. Thank God it's not too obvious. Thanks, Harry.
His car breaks down, and so his first solution is a little B&E into a garage.
Yeah, right. So he doesn't take his gun. He mentions he leaves his gun behind, but he does take his blasting rod and his shield bracelet. And as he's coming up to this place, he's thinking, maybe. Oh, he has his force ring too. But he starts thinking about the group he encountered last night that he followed to the department store, and he's like, kids that were all dressed up in their like biker leathers and we're talking about wolfy stuff. He's like, maybe they're like wannabe gay like that, or maybe it's completely unconnected, but starts wondering if maybe there could be a link there or something. And then figures why not. Well, B&E, yes and no. I mean, it is a garage, it's a shop. I'm assuming it's kind of like Mike's shop, like his mechanic shop or something like that, like unless there's big signs that say private. But to me it sounds like it looks like and whether or not they're open at this moment, but it sounds like it's a functioning commercial garage or something like that.
A business is a business is a business. If it's not yours.
If you don't go into the back of it.
Yeah,
But it's not the back. No, it's the front door.
Okay, but the point is that it's like, regardless of whether or not it is, regardless of the fact that
So you've got the big bay doors where you take your vehicles in and out, and right next to it is a man door. Now, I don't know about y'all, but I've occasionally pulled up to Canadian Tire, and the way that thing is outfitted is you have like 2, 3, 4 big bay doors, and next to them is a man door, and you walk in the man door and go, hey y'all, think maybe you can fix my car?
oh, well, see, I don't
stand around outside waiting for like a concierge to
he
come out
doesn't
and welcome me into
innocently go in and say,
Well,
hey,
I go to
can you
very
fix
rich and
my
expensive
car?
garages.
So you're like,
He goes in and sneaks around.
well, he doesn't get past the front door, but I mean, he does. He says he tries it and it's open, so he goes in. So I mean, like, I get maybe 9 o'clock in the morning, 8 o'clock in the morning, whatever time he's there. Like, there might be some question about whether or not they're open, but I don't know that it's completely, I don't know if it's complete full being, like if it was like 10 o'clock at night, yeah, chances are your local garage probably ain't open or whatever. But regardless, whichever way you kind of take it, yeah, he goes up, he tries the door, it's open, so he goes in. Now, at this point, he doesn't like peek
All
in
the
the
lights
door and
are
walk
off.
away. He opens the door and it's pitch black and he goes in anyways. Yeah. And that's really the fact that he like went up and tried the door is, but yeah, it's open. He goes in. Apparently,
I just feel like it's almost like one of those customer things where it's like, the door is closed and the sign says closed and all the lights are off and someone's like, "Are you open?
And
Can I come in?"
Maybe. You don't go as far as knowing. Like, yeah, from the outside description, it's not as clear to me whether the place definitely, or if there is question. But regardless.
I think this is an extension of reality.
This is where we have our contention, not the magic or anything, but whether or not he can go into a garage at 9 a.m. No, the werewolves is fine. It's whether or not you can see a mechanic at 9 a.m.
Is this a B&E? Is this just a normal business day?
Is it a Saturday or a Sunday or a Monday?
Welcome to our brains, people. This is
John
why our
Mulaney
lives
joke?
are dysfunctional. This is like
It's a John Mulaney joke where, like, he tries to nail a guy for B&E and the cops are like, barely. The car door was open and he didn't take anything. He entered, but that's it. Harry's like, all I did was walk in the door.
That's it, man. It was unlocked. I went in. So, yeah, this is why my brain
Which
tortures
is exactly going to be Marcone's defense in another chapter.
You can't prove otherwise.
The door was unlocked when I got here, I swear.
Sure. So, yeah, he shows up, realizes it's kind of, and decides to be up front. Like, I'm not even sure, did he even hear anything when he first
he goes in and he listens for a minute and you can hear that there's some breathing and there's some scuffling and just on the edges of silence you can hear that there's a bit of disturbance going on.
Yeah, okay, so he does call out first. That's what I was trying to figure out. So it does say,
"Hello, I'm not a cop."
Yeah, there's no windows. The only light in the garage fell into it from the open door that he's just come through. So he does call out. He's like, "Hello?" And that's when his eyes haven't really adjusted. He can't see yet, but he does start hearing. That's it. He's trying to get it to adjust, and he's like, then he hears a quiet, dull sound. So he's like, okay, and then he's like, I'm not a cop. So yeah, he still can't quite see. So he has alerted to their presence. He's not just sneaking in. He does kind of be like, hello, anybody here? Doesn't really get a response. Wait, I think I do hear.
The room dropped into dead silence. No moving, no breathing.
So he decides, he's like, okay, well, essentially I know I was told to come check out a gang. So I'm assuming that's what I'm dealing with. I'm not a cop.
And why did I just walk into the middle of this?
But still, he's like, again, he announces, so he's like, hey, I'm not a cop, but I'm here to speak to the Hells Angels. Y'all cool with that? Like, I'm not a cop. My name is Harry. I just want to speak to the street wolves.
Well, and that's another thing, too. It's like, I kind of understood why he was like, I'm not a cop. But at the same time, it's like, okay, good. So it's easier to hide your body? Like, it's less of a crime to kill you? Okay.
Yeah, you're kind of 50-50. Like, I maybe can, be disarming and be like, hey, not here for trouble. But at the same time, exactly. It's like, well, I've also just took away.
Well, and he also says this with his hand in his duster because he's holding onto his staff and they don't know what he's got because they instantly say, they're like, hands in the air.
Yeah, because he's like, he hears the rustling and kind of goes, oh shit, so he grabs it just in case, but...
Well, they also seem to recognize who he is right away.
Yeah, they know him.
His reputation has preceded him.
Yeah, which is... For him, it's like, typically speaking, if people know about him, it's as a charlatan, but these guys are like, hello, wizard, and he's like, ooh.
You actually know who I am.
My people don't normally know who I am.
Yeah, exactly. So they're like, take your hand out, keep your hands where we can see them, and he's like, we've heard of your kind, wizard, we've heard of you, you're with the cops. And he's like, oh, you're late on the gossip. He's like, I'm playing doubles with Johnny Marcone now, didn't you know? And they're like, yeah, whatever. Like, that's just Marcone's line. And he has a great line. He's like, fuck, if only the cops were this savvy.
Yeah,
There's a bunch of, like...
Even Harry himself is
ne'er-do-wells. Yeah, he's like, thank you!
Harry goes around like a bitch all the time, and he's like, no, nobody trusts me. But as soon as it works for him, he's like, no, I'm working with John now. And they're like, no, you're not. And he's like, darn.
Yeah, I love that. He's crap. Yeah, he's like, which is such the truth, right? It's like the thugs, the criminals, they're like, yeah, they know who the liars and cheats are, and they're like, no, but exactly the cops that you want who are like, we're not prepared. They're like, you might be a liar and a cheat. Yeah, so he's like, well, fuck. So he's like, so he's like, okay, well, I kind of heard about you guys aren't, so they start off, and Harry's like, he's like, well, come here so I can, like, talk to you. The guy's like, I don't give the orders here. It's like the interrogation is like, you're not asking the questions, I am. And Harry's like, I just want to talk. And they're like, okay, fine, about what? And he's like, a bunch of dead bodies. And he's like, wow, Harry, like, you're aware enough to know you might be getting into it, but you're kind of like in for a penny, in for a pound. You really don't try to be. You're like, oh, well, whatever, fuck it, cards on the table. Is like, yeah, I'm okay, fine. I'm not really with Marcone. I'm sort of with the cops, but I'm not here to like bust your chops. I just want to ask you if maybe you were the ones that murdered a bunch of people or not. Like, can we just...
So they found fake wolf tracks, and they found teeth scratches, and they found all these wolfy evidence.
Yeah.
Like,
so was it you guys? Or, you know,
street wolves. You're the first people I thought of.
Yeah, we did it. Okay, cool. Just wondering. I'm just gonna, don't worry. I'm not gonna tell the cops. I just need to know for myself. I don't want to tell my girlfriend, the reporter. Don't worry, guys.
Wouldn't you be willing to give an interview?
Yeah, right. We can do like the blurry thing if you want. I'm sure she's down with that, but.
Like the Dutch police putting like the little black bar over the bird. Like the little black bar over like a wolf.
Right.
I think the only thing that saves them is that they can't actually shift into werewolf form.
Which he's not even sure about at first, because he's like, if they were real werewolves, they could shift and kill me before I can. So he's like, that's the thing, even a positive. But thankfully, that is not the flavor we're dealing with.
We are dealing with lycanthropes.
Yeah, so once, the chick decides to just be like, fuck this, kill him, and get to everybody, at least he's not immediately swarmed by a bunch of literal wolves. Just a bunch of very angry people with a bunch of handy weapons accessible
very
in a mechanic
bestial.
shop. Yeah. It's like, they don't have teeth and claws, they just have like heavy wrenches and
like season one Scott McCall right now.
Don't know that, sorry.
Teen
Is
Wolf.
that Teen Wolf? Okay.
Sure is.
Apparently he wasn't one of your super favorites because I haven't heard his name a lot.
These are the wolves that are.
He's the main character.
Oh, damn! Sorry.
I really
But you were not played by Tyler Hoechlin.
So these are the lycanthropes.
What's your point?
The wolves
that was pretty much
that
it.
can't actually shift into wolf.
Yeah, so he's starting to adjust a little bit, and he's starting to see there's like a whole crowd of people here. So he's like, okay, time to leave. and the leader of the pack, who he doesn't really know other than the pack, is like, just chill, guys, hold it in, don't bust out your shit right here, right now. And they're starting to really work up into a frenzy, and he's having a lot of trouble controlling his peeps and keeping them from going batshit
Feral. From
wolf
going
shit.
feral.
Yeah, so Harry decides, like, well, I'm just gonna beat it, and I get the instinct, but thankfully Harry learns a little further down the road, you don't make sudden movements.
It's like Animal 101.
Yeah. Back slowly away from the dog.
And he was doing this whole
Back
thing in
slowly
like
away
chapter
from the snake.
1 where he's like, you don't understand wolves. Chicago hasn't had it. They're faster than anything. Their eyesight is better than anything. Their hearing is better than anything. I bolt instantly from the wolf.
Yeah.
Like,
and send all of them into a panic
yeah, it's
frenzy.
like,
after
okay,
me.
you did just confirm that these aren't full shifting wolves, but goddamn, dude, like,
You are not giving them respect that they deserve.
are you guys the guys with the teeth and the claws, and I'm gonna run?
Yeah, so I mean, I guess, again, intellect is not always a
He
substitute
should be at
for...
least assuming that he's running into a bunch of werewolves because that's what he's looking for.
He's like, well, okay, see, we're just gonna break it down to that fight or flight. Like, intellectually, he knows better. His body's anatomic response sorted out on him.
It does say that he was poised to run from the second he walked in. He was like, I'm ready to go just in case.
So he does run, and sure enough,
And I will say, if you're gonna get mauled, I mean, like, this is a crowd of naked people. Like,
as it turns out, half dressed, showing
half
me a
dressed to
frieze
naked,
of half
depending
dressed
on-
or naked men and women hurtling toward me. So it was nap time. Apparently, we have confirmed they were not yet open, or
They are
not open for
late
that kind of
sleepers.
business.
well, they've been out all night murdering.
Hello. What, do you go out on a rampage and get up bright and early? Freaking hate you morning people.
I always commit my murders by 8 p.m. so I can be in bed by 10.
I like your thinking. That would be when I'd schedule it. Yeah, so he does...
You'd still sleep till noon, so what's the
Oh,
point?
hell yeah. Narcolepsy for the win, people.
Butchering and burying bodies is so exhausting.
So tiring.
So
MG.
So he does see. So in this brief flash of he gets the or when he moves the shotgun goes on. That's kind of when he sees everybody is the flare from the shotgun and that. But manages to whip up his shield bracelet,
Which is like kind of horror movie scene when you just hear voices in the dark and then like there's one bullet of light and there's just like a zoom of faces everywhere. Yeah, it's like Blink Angels.
Blink.
Yeah. And then run. I would run too, actually, if that's all I saw was just like 1 second flash of light and there's like 30 naked people glaring at me.
It's hard to overcome.
Kill, motherfucking go.
Right? Yeah, Harry, again, right, he knows this. He has not had days and weeks and years and months of training of how not to
He's not about werewolves for 12 hours.
Wolf pack. Yeah, exactly, right. So at least so he does that. So it kind of shoves him up against the wall and he bounces around a little bit because it hits the force of the bracelet and just carries that whole momentum. But somebody else comes at him right away and he gets a punch off and he's like, on my own, like I'm a big guy, it's decent, but my punch isn't, not really anything to write home about. But because he's got his kinetic force ring on, that punch is doubled, tripled, quadrupled, what have you. No doubt about it. He smashes and breaks this guy's nose and lays him out, sends him sprawling back and fucks off. So he goes dashing to the car and hears the leader shouting at all of his guys to stop and calm down and chill out. Now, whether he just doesn't want to brawl in the mid-morning, whether it's because Harry is loosely connected to the cops and doesn't want to bring that kind of scrutiny down on them. Or as a wizard, or whatever, he's trying to get his guys to back off and calm down, and they're all, like, super worked up, and if you've all ever had to try and calm down a pack of dogs, not easy.
As a wizard, though, he's fully entitled to be able to fight them because they're not considered human anymore, because they're like...
As far as the laws of magic go, as far as, like, one guy versus 30.
Yeah,
good
I
luck,
think
bud.
that's more of the... Yeah, Harry's not worried about sort of the morality, the right or wrong, the whether he's...
Well, I would argue on that point, he is very concerned about the morality of it.
Okay, yes, but right now it's basically like he's not in a position to take on...
Yeah.
Here he would have much more of a self-defense clause to go on, but basically...
But he says he'd have to live with himself after, and that'd be much harder.
Yeah.
Because I think even as you're saying, like, if he could fire every firebolt at the building right now and probably get out relatively unscathed. I mean, if he wants to just burn this place on fire, he wouldn't be in trouble with the White Council. But he says he himself is like, that's a dark path, and magic comes from who you are.
Yeah, you don't
blah,
want...
blah, 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 blah. If I commit to this whole...
Yeah, if I just start blasting a fireball at everything that comes along...
I'll have to live with myself forever, and it'll change who I am.
Yeah, like, that's not the way to deal with your problems first. Sorry, I was thinking more of the technical, like, cops and robbers sort of law versus... I was like, it's not so much that, it's that he can't take, stop, you're under arrest. I'm like, but
Which is also, I think, another point against the White Council, though, is that, well, they're not really considered human, so it'd be okay if I killed them and be like, asshole, White Council laws, like...
A little,
they are
here is a very fine line.
It's a very fine line because, and again, the lycanthropy and the werewolf and the this and the that, we've got a lot of definitions for a lot of similar and not so similar things, but it's typically considered that, correct me if I'm wrong, but the lycanthropes are wizards who can do one spell, right?
No, they're born as... They just have, like,
born,
the spirit.
okay,
They just have, like, the spirit of a beast.
So the werewolf is the one
werewolf
that is one...
trapped in a human body.
Which is the one that is the one spell?
That is the plain werewolf.
Okay, so that's
Plain
the one.
werewolf.
Okay. So the point is that it's like all of these definitions are so loosely defined that it's like occasionally in this series that line between what is monster, what is mortal is not so clear.
Cut and dried, yeah.
But with the White Council it is. Harry's kind of argument is that it's not, and the White Council's like, whatever, do whatever the fuck you want.
Yeah.
So Harry is
they're
here
not
saying,
mortals,
like,
so fuck it.
Yeah. So Harry's here saying, like, regardless of what the White Council thinks, it'll weigh on my mortal soul.
Yeah, it's his code of conduct, his code of morals.
And I think it's also fair to say that these people are probably not, laying in a wolf den 20 hours of the day and then going out at night to hunt like a pack of wolves. They're probably living fairly normal human lives for the majority of their time. Like they probably have jobs and families and go grocery shopping and are living mortal lives. And if you want to get into the whole like, oh, well, like a threshold is like what's built up on the family and who's here and the emotions here, like they probably have a level of mortality to them.
Now, here's a little bit, though. He didn't walk into Wisteria Lane.
I'm not
he walked into a biker
I'm
gang.
not saying he walked into a threshold. I'm
So,
saying
no.
what makes a threshold is
know.
the emotion and the practice and the thought behind it. So what's to say that the emotion and practice and thought behind these lycanthropies is not enough to give them a mortal soul?
No, I get that. I'm just saying the difference with this particular group of people. I'm not saying that he walked into their home. I'm just saying that he didn't walk into, middle suburbia here and just he didn't go to Monica Sell's house and start giving her crap for being a lycanthrope.
Okay, yes.
He went to investigate a biker guy. These aren't nice people to start with that way. That's all I meant. Yes, they're human people. Yes, they have to go grocery shopping. Yes, they have to but you know what I mean? Like, again, right? He didn't walk into the Boy Scouts and start causing trouble. He walked into, Hell's Angels and started causing trouble. So that's all I meant there, is that this particular group that he's dealing with isn't that. They're the ones that have embraced and given into their lycanthropy
all of that
side.
is true as long as we're trusting the FBI. For all we know, this is literally just like a bunch of college kids who call themselves the Street Wolves and have a biker gang. Like, we haven't... Like, this doesn't come from Murphy, who we trust.
Other than the reception he got.
This came from some ditzy little... McDonald's unstoppable kid. Yeah.
Excuse me, Mr. Dresden. Can you go check these guys out, please? Yeah. Yes. But I mean, again, right?
Yeah, they did. Admittedly, they tried to kill Dresden 10 seconds ago.
Yeah.
Okay, sure.
But yes.
He started it.
But yeah. So point being is yada, yada, yada. There's a lot that could be going on with this.
I don't go out murdering people, but if someone's walking into my home at 8 a.m.
Right. Yeah. So anyway, so he's trying to get out. So meanwhile, because the beetle died when he got there, he's frantically trying come on, baby, come on. Just give me one more. Let's go. Finally gets, and as he's keeping an eye out to see if he's about to have his face ripped off, the leader of the gang, who we've discovered is Parker, turns around to see if he's gotten the fuck out of here and stopped riling up his people, and boom.
Bada bing, bada boom.
Bada bing, bada boom. We get a soul gaze, and Harry's like, holy fuck. And he gets to feel that beast contained with, right? It's not just a guy having a bad day. It's not just some emo teen that wants to really believe they're, He's like fury,
lust,
and rigid control, and tide and territory, or tide, like the ocean meeting of the tide, but the fury and the territory and the whole. So he does get a little insight that, okay, this is not just, do they think they are? It's like, okay, this is kind of a real thing. This is bad. And if this guy wants to
and more to my
control,
point, if you're capable of soul gazing with it, it has to have a soul.
Well, there's,
Right.
Well,
they're not purely never creatures.
We know that you can soul gaze with never creatures, but there is an extent there that is still
but not
soul
I think he said the
containing.
fairies don't have. But so he's also, he figures out that if Parker wants to stay the top dog, Dresden's got to go. So fuck. That's bad. This isn't just like, get out of here and we'll call it quits. It's like, no, he's going to come.
He just came in to challenge his authority.
He just came in to challenge my authority, and he's not going to just let it rest. He will track me down until that's taken care of. So that just sucks right there. Secondly, he doesn't actually know anything about this stuff that I came barging in here to ask about. So I just put my head on the chopping block for nothing. Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. I just literally went and bought
Which again, as I had issues in the first book, Harry is very quick to be like, yeah, I'll trust what this guy's telling me and I won't do any extra research. Yeah. Like, it's like, dude, come on. And I get it when you can't log on to Google or do your own police report. I mean, when you're a special investigator in the early 2000s, wizard or not, I understand that information gathering is a little bit different. And like you said, in the moment, you go check things out, you do a little snooping. But at the same time, it's like, anytime Dresden does anything, like half of his problems are just because he didn't take a fucking coffee break.
Right. That makes sense. That makes sense.
It's a lot under pressure. But I have to admit, if somebody walked up to me and was FBI and told me to go do this, I'd probably be like, okay. But then again, I'm not Harry.
But at the same time, I get you are consistently like, I have 12 hours to live. And he goes out and he's like, no, it's 6. Like, just, why didn't you use your 12 hours?
Yeah. No, I agree. Yeah. So he's gotten himself in a little bit of hot water.
He's staring at a bomb every single day and it's counting down from every single weekend that we read these books. And it's like, you've got 24 hours to live. And he cuts a wire and it's like, you've got 12 hours. It's like, fuck. And he cuts another wire and it's like, you've got 6 hours. Like, motherfucker.
You've got 6 hours. Go buy a bomb. Yeah, figure out which wire to cut.
Yeah, it's like, god damn, read the manual. Yeah,
exactly. So it's kind of funny. He says he's sitting there like he's like berating him. So I mean, in all fairness, he's now berating himself. Stupid Harry, stupid. How could you be so stupid? Why didn't you get more information? Why did you go? And so he just unfortunately he does it after the fact. Not
He is
before.
another member of our podcast. Why are you so stupid?
Why are you doing this?
Damn
and
it.
He's like, does manage to refrain from glaring at the lady because somebody's looking at him like he's crazy. And he's like, okay, probably am. I won't give her shit for that. I'll just. But yeah, so he's.
What do you look? Oh, okay, no.
Yeah, no, you're right. I look like I am a crazy man ranting in my car right now.
I put on a dress shirt today, motherfucker.
Come on. So he's like, maybe I can just ditch out, leave town for a while. Maybe the werewolves will forget about me. Like,
Bye, Murph. You're on your own.
So decides to head back because he's told Murph, he's like, I'll probably be at the office the rest of the day if you have questions or whatever, So he heads to his office and fucking. Oh, I have to say that was actually one thing he's talking about all the magic and say there's more magic. Oh, because he's talking about like the power of his magic and the whole. I think this is where he has his moral debate and stuff like that. But he's like, babies have more magic in their first giggle. Yes, that's true. It's such a mom. I know. Yeah. But yeah, black magic. It's easy and fun, like Legos. But he doesn't want to be there, so he heads to the office, opens the door, and oh fuck!
Flip on the lights.
One more wolf.
He unlocked the door and flipped on the lights. Marcone was sitting in the office with the lights off, locked the door behind him, sat in Dresden's chair, and then waited.
Badass. Yeah.
And also,
Surprise.
like, I love this
Like
even
Mr.
more
Burns
because,
sitting
like,
there.
Harry wasn't at the garage for long.
Yeah.
Like, let's say, like, the absolute latest is 10:30, and it's probably more like 9:30. Or the absolute latest is 10, and it's probably more like 9:30. And, like, Harry on most days probably isn't coming to the office until, like...
Yeah, does Marcone know his schedule?
I'm like, has Marcone been sitting there since 7 a.m.? Like,
Sort of hanging out there.
yeah.
And if this was his typical, I was up all night doing research and potions, and I didn't get up until like noon.
Yeah,
or
he wouldn't have
3.
been,
Like,
like-
would you eventually just been like,
And I'm
fuck,
wondering,
he's not
like,
coming,
was
or-
Mark and like, you could obviously say that Marcone knows his schedule or has been trailing him all morning. That's totally Marcone's style.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I love to think that Marcone like let himself in at 7 a.m., locked the door, turned off the lights, and has been sitting here for 3 hours. Worst professional ever.
So, Hendrix.
Or most committed.
What would that casual conversation be like between like Hendrix and Mark? So did you catch the Cubs game last night?
I don't think we're gonna get into it right now. But like, Marcone offers Harry a deal, and I wonder if that whole like time before he was like, well, I was gonna offer him 10 hours of work.
Yeah.
Now it's 5.
If he doesn't show
Now
up
it's
in
3.
5 minutes,
Right.
I'm waiting 5 more minutes.
We're
My
dropping a
waitress
0
doesn't
off
show
of that next check if he doesn't like.
All right.
He's sitting down here all morning, like, does he know how much cocaine I'm supposed to be selling right now? Like, I am losing billions on this asshole. Like,
Right.
which I mean, I think would please Harry to no end.
So yes, it would, but yeah.
Anyways,
All right.
next time.
This concludes our episode 5.4, Cops, Critters, and Cons. Thank you for listening. You can find us online at freeflowrambling.com and McAnally's.ca. There we have links to our other podcasts, social media, and other fun tidbits. Please subscribe if you like what you're hearing, and please consider supporting us through Patreon to keep the magic alive and see more content. We have currently released new tiers and have so many fun tidbits. Do check us out. We are Free Flow Rambling. Conjure at it by your own risk.